Hello everyone, my name is Amber and thank you for joining YouTube with me. I am actually going ahead and putting up a video today. This will be the second video on the channel, and I'm putting this video up today thinking about graduate school students, undergraduate school students, and teachers looking for their first job. And the idea is that no matter if you're still in school or if you are planning on interviewing soon, or maybe you're in the process of interviewing, you're going to need a lesson plan that knocks your administration off their socks. So while I cannot say I'm going to sit here and walk through giving you intricate details about your lesson plan, what I can promise you is that I'm going to show you exactly what I did to make my lesson plans stand out, and also give you some ideas of how to make sure you're focusing on the right things in your lesson plan. Because what's going to happen is you may be asked to do a mock lesson, meaning take the lesson plan that you have given them and perform it, or you may be asked to, hey, take over this classroom for one block and teach the lesson that you have prepared for us. So my hope is that by the end of this video, you will be comfortable with understanding what your lesson plan needs. You will be comfortable with understanding what it means to have your standards, learning objectives, and essential questions. And you'll also be comfortable adding in content to your lesson that is going to support your students in understanding and mastering the goal. Okay, so with the intro out of the way in 2 minutes, okay, let me draw your attention to my screen. So right now I have things that you'll need before you begin. The first thing you're going to need is your core standards. So what is it that you are going to be focusing on? What Common Core are you working on? Next, you're going to be looking for your lesson objective. And a lot of times a core standard will cover a range of skills depending on what subject you're working on. So what is this specific lesson going to be focusing on? Sometimes you'll be focusing on 1 or 2 skills, but I played it safe, and for my lesson plan, I focused on one particular skill. I focused on one thing that I wanted to make sure that they understood and had a lot of practice in by the end of the lesson. Some essential questions, they're also going to be helpful, meaning what answers are what questions will your students be able to answer? There you go. What questions will your students be able to answer, right? What are they going to be able to do by the end of their time with you in that session? And then the assessment, which is your evidence of learning. That's the demonstration of what they're going to be able to do at the end of your lesson. Okay, so will they be able to multiply numbers with a 0 in the end? Will they be able to write a sentence with a noun and a verb? Things like that. You can use exit tickets, which is just a simple formative assessment that you look at all of your students' work and you go, okay, I need to work with Susie a little bit more on this. Or it can be a summative assessment, meaning that this is it, this is the coup de grace, and this is your test, or you're taking a quiz at the end of class or something like that. And the last thing that I would suggest is having some differentiating ideas, like how are you going to differentiate instruction? How are you going to change it up depending on the different needs of your students? I'll be honest with you, a lot of times in classrooms, you have students on varying levels of understanding. So you need to be able to pivot and move in a way that supports them. It doesn't matter if they have an IEP, a 504, or if they are just going undiagnosed at this time in your classroom, depending on what the situation is. It's still a great idea to have some things in mind that you're going to be able to do to support your class. With that being said, I am going to give you I'm going to give you an idea of what a fully formed lesson looks like. And so what I'm hoping is, again, by the end of this lesson, by the end of this video, wow, I'm in teacher mode. By the end of this video, you will be comfortable creating your own lesson plan based on what you know from your own classes, your experience from student teaching, or being an assistant teacher right now. And good luck. So let's get started. All right, so getting started, I'm going to be looking here. That is my screen where I'm looking at my Google Doc. And then I'm also going to be looking to the left. That is where I have my Common Core standards at. So I'll just show you what I'm looking at. This is my state's website where I can find all the standards. And your state should have that website as well, where you're going to be able to see your Common Core. And just a quick tour, I'm more than happy to go over this further, but just a quick tour. You can click your grade preference. So a lot of times, depending on where what your certification is going to be, you will have a block of grades. Unless you're going K to 8, you're going to choose your preference of which kind of grade you want to be in, I would say. So you would choose your grade preference. Again, it goes all the way up to high school, and then you're going to choose what subject, and then you can even go even further to talk about specific courses. This is more in the high school realm. So for me, I'm just going to go with what I am doing right now, which is second grade, and it has pulled up all of my second grade, and I've highlighted math. So it's going to pull up all of my second grade Common Cores for mathematics. And remember, I said to you that the first thing you're going to want to do is choose your standard. Now, I know you're going to get that itch to make it look pretty. Save that for the end, okay? Because to be quite honest, I emailed mine, just a blanket template that I made on, I want to say Google Docs. Microsoft Word works as well. And the administrator was very pleased that they didn't have to look through a lot of different patterns and things to see what I was talking about. So keep that in mind when you're putting your lesson plan in your portfolio. Just aside, maybe save the designs, make a minimalist, or save the designs for after you get the job. Okay, so moving on. I have chosen for my Common Core academic standard, I've chosen a use addition to find the total number of objects arranged in a rectangular array with up to 5 rows and up to 5 columns. And then students will also be able to write an equation to express the total as a sum of equal addends. So right now I'm seeing a lot of vocabulary that the students are going to have to know. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is, like I said, we're simply going to write it out, and I'm going to speed this up so that you don't have to watch me type everything. Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned, you're going to want to make sure that you understand the standard as well, because you're going to have to be talking to your students about the standard. And again, if this is a lesson plan that you're going to be doing for your teacher interview, you're going to want to make sure that you display that you know what you're talking about. Like, don't go in winging it, don't go in guessing it. Make sure you know. So right here, we're talking about repeated addition. Students are going to need a lot of background knowledge, and they're going to have to be comfortable with counting. I say that not to be rude, but I say that because this is foundations of multiplication and division lesson. So you're also going to want to be focused on the vocabulary. The biggest word that stands out right now to me, and I'm just going to highlight it for you. Array, that's a new word for my students. And yeah, I'm just going to talk to you guys as if I'm planning it for my own students because that'll be easier. Okay, so arrays, rows and columns, they should kind of know already, but you're going to want to reaffirm that. They should know what an equation is. They also will want to know what an add-in is, which is basically numbers that are being added together. So nothing too stressful there. They may not know that sum is the same as the whole, right? So you're going to want to make sure you talk about that with them. And you're going to, again, remind them about the addition factor, that all they're going to be doing is addition, but this is helping them build those skills to be able to multiply, okay? Next thing, after you focus on your standard, you want to think about the learning objective. The learning objective, what are the kids going to be able to do by the end of the lesson? So what I'm thinking is that write this in the easiest way so that when you put it on the board or you put it on your slide, your students can read it with you, repeat it after you, or read it for you. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put learning objective. And you can either write it two ways. You can write it, students will be able to. You can abbreviate that by writing SWBAT, or you can write the I can statement. In the primary grades, I love the I can statement. The kids take such ownership of it. I sound corny, but it's okay. So I'm going to go with the I can statement. In older grades, I'm pretty sure sometimes you forego the I can statement and just, hey, this is what we're going to be doing, but for my class, I really enjoy the I can statement, and it shows that you're interacting with the class because they're going to be saying it. The administrator will know, hey, they're going to have the kids saying this statement too. So 2 I can statements for me based on the standard. I can create arrays with up to 5 rows and 5 columns, right? Very simple based on the standard. And then I can make a repeated addition equation to show arrays. Show or represent, it depends on where you guys are at in vocabulary. Just to share, I like to interchange words. So I'll say something like represent, meaning show, like I'll do it like that so that students will, oh, that's another word for this. I can use this word instead of that word next time. Okay, so now that we have our standard chosen and we have our learning objective done and settled, we have begun with the end in mind. What are the kids going to need to know how to do? They're going to need to know how to create a 5x5, okay? And they're going to need to be able to make an equation out of it. Next thing I'm thinking about are essential questions. What questions will they be able to answer at the end of my lesson? Okay, you can also put this in what equations will they be able to solve based on their learning. So, for instance, this lesson, let's see, questions. I'm just going to write essential questions. They'll want to be able to know what a column is. What is a column? And what is a row? They should know, but in case not, these are questions that we're going to go over. What is an array? Because I'm pretty sure it'll be a new concept. They may not know what it is. And then they will need to know how to determine what number they're going to use as their repeated addition equation. Okay, so how do I decide what number to use as my repeated addition equation. Oops, I don't know what that word was going to be. Okay, and I also want them to be able to solve arrays up to 5 columns and 5 rows. So they'll be able to do 5 plus 5, plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, and anything in between, okay? Again, repeated addition is setting kids up for multiplication, okay? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, right? 5 times is 25. They'll be able to answer this because they'll be able to add 5 times. And every number up to 5, okay? So with that being said, I'm just going to put that there and think about the assessments. Think about the assessment. Okay, so what type of assessment am I doing to make sure that my kiddos understand what I'm talking about by the end of the lesson? For math, I love a good exit ticket. And here's what I'll say. With the curriculum that your school may have, exit tickets may already be created for you. But if you're left to your own devices, then choose a couple of questions that best go along with what you are teaching and give that to them at the end. Okay. Let's see. You could also do, so along with assessments, depending on how long you're going to be teaching for, I think the exit ticket would be the best way to go, especially if this is going to be a demo lesson, a mock lesson, or a lesson that you're performing for your classmates, performing for your teacher, performing for your future employer. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm only going to put exit ticket down here with that in mind. Next, again, I mentioned that you need to be focused on a few ways that you're going to differentiate, there you go, your instruction, because everyone may not move at the same exact pace. And advice, take it, okay? So, like I said, if you have IEPs, you're gonna have already studied that. In a demo situation, it probably won't be the main focus point of your lesson, but I'm telling you, having this in your demo lesson for your administrator to see, for your teachers to see, etc., is going to be great. All right, so I will put that I'll use manipulatives to help students physically understand an array. Okay, so maybe I use physical squares that they can put together 5 by 5 in rows and columns if they need it. Also, I would also say partner work. There will be partner work opportunities during class. Collaborative learning is amazing, especially when you're learning a brand new concept. The first 3 lessons, within, like, if you're going to teach the first lesson, cool, but like in those next 2, make sure you give some cooperative learning time so that the kids can bounce off of each other, especially if your class gets along. And then also, you can also put there will be time during independent practice for a small group to come with you. So I'll write teacher group time for students who need it during independent time. Okay, so those are 3 things that you can always say. By comparison, if this is a reading lesson, right, you may not have an opportunity to have manipulatives if you're reading a passage, But you can do partner reading, and you can say, I will have a teacher group reading session while students are independently reading. Okay? So next thing I want you to think about is what I mentioned at the very beginning when I wrote the standard, vocabulary. I want you to focus on some vocabulary that the kids are going to be learning for the first time, or you're going to be reviewing. So for me, the students are going to be reviewing addends, equation, and let's see what else they might be reviewing. Total and sum. Okay, and then new vocabulary is going to be array, and what else? Repeated addition might be a new term for them, so we'll talk about that. I'll also put rows and columns too. Okay, so you may have more, you may have less, but making sure you put some vocabulary that you're going to be focused on. This is also good for you, because as you glance at your lesson plan, you're going to be able to say, oh yeah, I need to find out if they know this. Let me circle back on this when I come to it. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to stop here. And if you're interested, I will certainly do another lesson plan picking up from where I left off. Understand this. You can write a very engaging lesson if you make sure that you're focused on the foundation of what your lesson is supposed to be about. All right, so in this situation, you have chosen your standard. You know exactly what you want your kids to be able to do at the end of the lesson. You have questions that you're going to be asking them. And these essential questions also help you, like if there's a student struggling, you can go back to the question like, oh, remember, what is a column, right? And then they go, oh, a column goes up and down, right? Vertical, right? The essential questions help you and the student at the same time. Knowing that you're going to do a check for understanding is great for the student, and even better for you, because that's going to allow you to go back and check and see what you need to go over again, what you may need to present in a different way for your students. And then making sure you have some ideas of how you would differentiate. It's not always going to be uniform, but you'll find yourself implementing changes in your lesson anyway. So if you already had something on your mind, then it'll be all the more easier for you to change directions in class if you need to. Lastly, the vocabulary, again, words that your students are going to need to know in order to move forward, in order to succeed, right? You're not always going to be able to read the instructions to or with them. So if they are getting comfortable with their math vocabulary and or their reading vocabulary, it's going to be all the better. My suggestions for you moving forward, if this was your starting point on writing your first lesson plan, or maybe if even you needed some guidance on where to start, would be to next think about a easy, quick, maybe 3-minute activity to help you get the class started, check out where they are. For me, in my class, we've been doing 10 facts. We're not quite at this point yet, as we're like preparing for foundations of multiplication and division, but for what we are doing, we are focused on 10 facts in what's called a fluency. Lastly, make sure that you are allowing them practice to read, practice to complete equations, allow them opportunity to work together, and allow them an opportunity to work with you. Make sure you write in your lesson plan that you're going to circulate the room, even if it's just a quick glance at a paper. If you assign them 5 problems, but you're only looking at one to see if they got one or maybe 1 or 2 of them correct. Okay, so with that in mind, good luck. Let me know how it goes, and I would love your feedback. Let me know if this assisted you. Let me know if this helped you out in the comment section below. I hope you have a great one, and I hope this helps you